People really liked my objections to objectivity video, so I decided to do another one of these video musings. The topic of today is the Calarts conspiracy. Dun dun dun! So let me explain to you this whole controversy. It allegedly started with the creative Ren and Stimpy criticizing Walt Disney movies. But really, it's kind of completely unrelated to the current conspiracy. As such, I won't really be going over it too much. The current conspiracy really started with the reveal of the Thundercats Roar trailer. Full disclosure, I didn't watch the original series or the reboot from 2011. As such, I judged the teaser on its own merits. After the reveal, several commentators, including TJ Kirk, criticized the teaser rather roughly. Some of these people then posted memes based on the Calarts conspiracy theory. And afterwards, some really large YouTubers such as Frederator and Atari seemed to need video content and decided to make videos trying to debunk the conspiracy theorists in a rather dishonest manner, completely strawmanning them in what can only be assumed to be a, own the right move. And this is where I got aware of this conspiracy by Jar, who is an excellent commentator. He made an excellent video on the topic, which is where I first learned the subject before doing further hours of research. In essence, he explained to these people that it was just a bunch of memes, that they were astroturfing, even if he didn't use that term exactly. Now, for those curious, astroturfing is a form of gaslighting that refers to the practice of making a larger deal out of something that really isn't that important, often in the term of astroturfing to mask the sponsors of a message to make it appear grassroots, or in this case, to make their critics look like conspiracy theorists. Now, of course, this expose by Just a Robot, of course, led to its own backlash because YouTubers cannot ever just stand the fact that someone will make a video and they need views about it. And, so what happened was that two people named What the Cheick and Cartoonshi decided to make videos against Jar, and for this video I'll be mainly responding to their points. However, I also intend to debunk some of the arguments that the original larger YouTubers made. Argument 1. Action shows don't need a realistic art style.
Color palette is usually darker and more complex.
So are you assuming that just because something doesn't look realistically drawn, that's automatically not an action show? Because that's what it sounds like to me. Art styles mean absolutely nothing.
This argument is entirely subjective. You may think this, but can you prove it? Also, it is based on a misunderstanding of Just a Robot's wording. He stated that action shows usually have more realistic proportions and usually have a darker art style. Keyword, usually. He didn't say always, despite what Cartoonshi says. The second argument is that every era of animation has had similar animation styles/trends.
I don't think it's unfair to say that a lot of these shows share some similar characteristics with one another.
Now, this clearly ignores the differences in budgets between animation eras, as well as general inflation and the overall varying costs, usually at a decreasing rate of animation. Back then, most studios didn't have a choice in, how they decided to animate. Nowadays, a guy in his basement can animate beautifully. To argue in favor of Calarts when you can have literally any other art style is, I think, one of the issues. And I think a lot of people dislike the Calarts style is because it is very clear that it does in some way impact the original creator's intention. Look at those older versions of the shows. They have completely different art styles. Why would they change it? A third argument against the Calarts conspiracy is that the very idea is an insult to the very animation industry itself.
Suddenly,
the issues that come from perpetuating an inaccurate stigma against an industry and its schools?
Okay, I find it ironic that you defend these shows because they're quote-unquote progressive. I highly doubt if these shows were with right-wing ideals and other things, you wouldn't even mention the politics at all. It's ironic. But anyway, let me explain to you why this isn't true, and is in fact quite hyperbolic and slanderous at most. The conspiracy applies to, what, 4 cartoons, maybe 6? That doesn't really cover the entirety of Western animation, let alone the entire community of animation in and of itself. To criticize Calarts is not an attack upon the very idea of animation. You guys really need to learn to be individuals and stop taking a criticism of a group that you belong to as an attack upon all. Oh, and one more thing before I share my final thoughts and conclusions, because this guy says something kind of funny.
You do realize a show doesn't have to be realistic or dark or gritty or have realistic proportions. A show can be action oriented or have action elements and still... You know what? It's better if I just show you instead of telling you. That was a little self-indulging. Harder than you think is a beautiful thing.
Even though it's a known fact that Rebecca Sugar doesn't use character sheets and is well known to often have Steven be off-model because of, creative freedom, which is a good thing in some circumstances, though it's not always good if you're trying to achieve a good product. So really, this is just a pointless jab at Jar for literally no reason at all. So in conclusion, what is the Calarts conspiracy? Well, for my research, it is pretty much nothing more than a bunch of larger and smaller YouTubers gaslighting what is basically a bunch of memes to be an attack upon the very animation industry itself. No, it's really not that serious. Now, as a person who intends to learn how to animate and is in fact going to college, I find it rather insulting the need to defend my, work, especially in what could arguably be some of the weaker forms of animation. Well, that's about it. If you want to share your own thoughts on the conspiracy theory, comment down below and subscribe for more videos like this.